Hello, this is Virtuals, the chess noob, learning and having fun with chess. Recently, I've really enjoyed playing the Smith-Morra Gambit against the Sicilian Defense. And here we've got another game where we move out of opening theory in terms of my opponent and myself by move 3. And we enter into these amazingly fun tactical lines. Let's go take a look. I have the white pieces, e4, Sicilian Defense, c5. And Smith-Morra, so d4, captures. Here I push c3, and now my opponent decided to decline the Sicilian defense with this interesting move d5. And apparently this is the Scandinavian formation. Very fascinating variation. And here I had no idea what I was supposed to do, so I decided to double down and go aggressive. So captures. So apparently taking in this direction is better, but I now have sort of a potential control of the center. Queen's in a potentially precarious position, but queen also out. So this isn't terrible for me. Apparently it's about minus 0.4. They develop their knight in this direction, which is interesting. I thought that they may develop this way to sort of kick my queen. And the problem, of course, with the knight here is that we can now push e5. And this is very similar to the Vienna Gambit accepted position, where ostensibly the knight doesn't really have any really good places to go and potentially has to go back. Well, my opponent decided to develop the other knight first. I, of course, pin the knight with the bishop. So still hanging, and now the knight jumped forward. And here you can see, just like in the Vienna Gambit accepted, the best move for that knight was in fact to undevelop. And this is a blunder, not exactly easy to see if you weren't expecting it. And white is now ahead plus 4.5. So on move 6, completely winning position potentially. So, and the reason why that's so bad, why it's a blunder, is that knight is just trapped. It has nowhere really good to go. So here, everywhere, is potentially, attacked by one of my pieces. So they decide to take. Here, the best move I thought was probably to capture with the knight, but I was a bit concerned with sort of the knight's attack on my queen, so I decided to actually take with the queen. Stockfish, in fact, does identify that that was the best move. Now, attack, that's okay. Let's take the knight with check. They capture back, and here, check, block. I expected that. Queen back in this position, attacking the pawn. So I was very, very pleased here. I thought it was basically navigated the opening well. That's fine. Take the pawn, queen out. So, black has now sort of smashed queen side potential defenses, trying to, get a bit of counterplay with just a queen, but it's not quite enough, is it? So block with bishop. They move the queen out of the way, develop knight. They take, that's fine, because rook now on a b1. Everything here is defended. What are they going to do with the queen? They decided to sneak it in. And that's, a brave thing to do. Stockfish doesn't believe in this queen counterattack. It's +9 for white. So doing very well, though, I still need to convert. Here, I decide to infiltrate with my rook, potentially, looking at a mate in 1. So rook now into that position. And here I make a one-move blunder. So this was a daily game format with my American friend, with my American opponent, and I have this unfortunate habit of just shooting off moves on my phone playing daily games. I get a notification that it's my turn. I can't quite remember what I was doing, and I just make a move. And this is, of course, a terrible move because, so that was the best move according to Stockfish. That is straight up hanging with a discovered attack on the queen. And here, the advantage goes all the way back to black. So I think here it's about minus 1.2 at high depth. So from +9, minus 1.2. As soon as I took, I knew I was in some trouble. So I decided, look, I have to get rid of that queen. That queen, of course, is very, very dangerous for me. So takes. And here we're ostensibly almost equal. So materially, we're almost equal. However, my most active piece is the rook, while my opponent still has the bishop pair. And the bishop pair often can bully a single rook. It's often hard to maneuver the rook. So they sort of obviously move their bishop out of the way. Here, I thought about this, but I was concerned with this sort of double attack on the d1 square. And so I decided to block the rook with my bishop. You can see Stockfish wasn't afraid of that attack and thought taking that pawn, being a material up, was in fact better. So now they developed the other bishop. You can see excellent move. And here I try to maneuver attacking the bishops, but my opponent responds really well. And remember what I said about the bishops bullying, a bishop pair bullying a single rook? I gradually get worse and worse in my evaluation here. It's actually quite difficult to maneuver a rook against a bishop pair. Attack, there we go. Now attack, and you can see Stockfish thought this was better. Now I decide to, double defend. And one of the things here now is that my opponent with the black pieces start making some mistakes. So even though we're materially balanced, black is ostensibly better positionally because they've got the bishop pair. So my goal potentially is to try to trade pieces, particularly if I can trade one of the bishops. They lose the synergistic effect from the bishop pair. If we can trade all the way down, we might end up back towards a drawn endgame, which is good for me because I'm losing at the moment. And here I knew I was in some trouble. So here you can see Stockfish says that that was a mistake. And in fact, this mistake almost moves back to equality, only minus 0.4 because of black losing the bishop pair. Takes, we trade down, bishop, knight. Here we go. They show now short castles. I bring my knight out, hopefully trade. Yes, trade. And here we are back to 0, 0, 0. So a salutary lesson here, actually, so that if you are ahead in sort of middle game with the bishop pair, with material equality, don't trade away one of your bishops, because now that we've traded down, we are now in a drawn endgame. And rook and pawn endgames are basically like a different game, and it sort of now depends on who's better at the rook and pawn endgame. They push, that's fine. I now develop my rook, get it active. If they capture here, that's fine. Captures. If they push, that just locks that off. That's okay for me as well. They decide to sort of defend, but that's okay. I've got a check. So check, they're forced to block. Here, I'm going to attack. They take, that's fine. Take back. Here, forced to defend. I can move my rook, double attack. And now my opponent, I think, makes a bit of a mistake. So they decide to try to get their king active, which is a good idea. And Stockfish at high depth still calls this 0, 0, 0. But you can see at lower depth, it gives a small advantage to white. Now the reason for that is I can now take that pawn. So it takes, the king has now become active. Technically, with perfect play by black, this is a drawn position. However, I now have a passed pawn on the A file. And it's frankly just a little bit easier now for me to play this position than black. So I push that pawn, try to sort of negate potential movement of the black king. They decide to move the rook and, potential attacks here. That's okay. So let's put the king up. So basically blocking all these squares from the rook. They now decide to come over here. And what I thought is that they were going to try to do a fork like this. And knowing psychologically what my opponent did, I thought that if we could force, if I could get a position where there's an offer to trade rooks, black might do it. So, rook to d7. So if they come here, I now have the rook on d2, defended by the king, and there'll be an offered trade. That's what happens. Rook to b2 with the fork, my rook to d2. Are we going to trade? And of course, trading is actually a mistake for black because of that passed a pawn. However, again, psychologically, here they had an attack. Realistically, they're going to have to, retreat somewhere here with the rook. Are they going to take that step? Will they be willing to withdraw the attack from the rook? My hunch was that they weren't going to, and I was right. A rook captures rook, a blunder, and in fact, at high depth, at about depth 50, Stockfish finds a forced mate in 25 from this position. King captures the rook, and now it's all about that pawn promoting. So that's fine. I'm going to leave all that. Push, 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 push. That's too late. It's too slow. Queen. And pretty much it's the end of the line. I just give checks, try not to make sure I don't have a mistake. Now I infiltrate with the queen, and basically black must lose one of these pawns the next turn. Here, my opponent opted to resign. Good game. GG. My big takeaway from this game is to play the Smith-Morra Gambit. It is very effective at the beginner intermediate level and leads to very fun tactical lines in the opening. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.